And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
Oh, hi. You might be saying to yourself, hey, Wes, you got older, taller, and more devilishly handsome. And you'd be right if I were Wes Tankersley. Tankersley? Is that right? Yeah. But this is still Shaping Success. I'm just his pinch hitter for the week. My name is Wolf K. Little point of business. Do Wes a big favor. Like, share, and review this podcast and help the little feller out. If you'd like, by donating at Patreon, like fellow Patreon Nikki Pavlovich, so he can improve his brand, maybe his equipment, and start moving towards his dream to be a big boy full-time podcaster. Maybe get him some makeup. You can do all that by going to westankersley.com and clicking the link to Patreon or any of the other links that will take you to his media empire and his social media presence, which seems to be everywhere. So, where is Wes? I don't know. Said something about hiding out, holding mountains of laundry, or I don't know, taking a vacation. Something. Anyway, he's not here. He just allowed me the platform for the day and have access to this camera. And now I have to figure out what to do with the time. So I'm no podcaster. Well, yet. Although with the success of this, my first hosting experience, um, I might find myself on more popular shows where snark and a fresh young face like mine might be just what they need. So, anyway, what would you like to talk about? Well, this is going to be a very short Q&A session, apparently. Come on, people, help me out. What should we talk about? Yes. No, I don't like that. Next. Yes. Um, I don't think I don't think that's appropriate on this platform. So, anybody else? Yeah, in the back. Sorry. What? Okay. I'll tell you what. This is going nowhere. So, how about I pick a topic? Let's talk about how hard it is to find a path to a complete life and staying positive in the midst of all that life when it hits you. Let me start by making this disclaimer. I'm not a clinical psychologist, certified medical expert, or even a qualified physical trainer. And I absolutely advocate for everyone to seek the right help at the right time, try and make progress in your life. But I'm also someone who's struggled in low times of my life and also having ADHD, which makes me instantly funny and, at least in my head, more attractive. And I've tried to find a path, positivity, and finding a suitable life's purpose for many years. So I've taken it upon myself to write a book about it. It's called The Positivity Conduit. I run a radio show, among other things. It's centered on this book that I'm writing, and it's called Sensible Coffee, and you can find it on the Stationhead app or at stationhead.com/ The Salad Hunter, which relates to the fact that I also happen to be a produce farmer. And one of the big things that I grow is salad. So you can download the app or go directly to my page to listen to past episodes on your own time. I just got finished doing a series on questions that we need to be asking ourselves in our life to make big changes or to make changes appropriate for who we are. I also run a media company called Dogged ID Media Services, where I work in audio and video, SEO. I do work with websites, um, kind of a big clearinghouse for digital and audio media. And soon I hope to be hosting my own podcast called Positivity Conduit. You can search it now. There's not much there. There's not much there at all, actually. I think there's one video that I posted. It's a short from like August. Yeah, so I haven't done a lot with it, but I've also been trying to work on the studio and build some things that I'm trying to do. And I think I'm ready to try and do that. Of course, it all depends on how this particular episode goes and the feedback I get and whether or not I'll even carry on. I'm 25. What? Oh, you didn't buy that? Okay. Well, I'm actually 53. I'm divorced 3 times. I see about that. And trying to transition from being a produce farmer, hence the salad hunter thing, in the midst of what was an extreme drought here in Texas that has made things a little tough. And I've had to pivot in my life in such a way because it has done a lot of damage to my way of life. Up until 2021, I'd been struggling with many areas of my life that it felt pretty overwhelming at times. Not that it got too serious, but I was often muttering things that said, I hate my life. As I just went through the day to day, I professed this desire to succeed while also trying to tell people that I was okay and that it would all be okay. So after my most recent divorce, I wanted to make some changes to my life, and it was a struggle. So in my struggles to find a positive path, I recognized well, there were too many options to seek. There were many options, but there was no clear path to it. There's no how to where it comes to putting together your life plan, pull yourself from dark places. They're typically only one-off options. In other words, you need to know exactly what you need help with, or just flat out going to counseling. And believe me, I advocate for counseling, um, especially if you can't decipher. Uh, let's try that again. If you can't decipher anything specific that you need to be attacking, it helps to have that outside influence. But just diving in on one particular issue that you do know, I don't necessarily think was the best path. So I am writing a book that centers on letting you chart your own path to a new, more authentic and positive you, and that's the Positivity Conduit. And what the book centers on are 5 points that I call pillars. The first is self awareness. The second is our triad of health, which is the mind, body, and spirit. The third is gratitude. The fourth is acceptance. And the last is compassion. And I'll explain these. So, in order to move forward at any point in our life, we have to have enough self awareness to realize that we're stuck, right? That we understand that there are things we need to be doing for ourselves to reach a higher height. Um, you have to do a little bit of shadow work. You have to have a self inventory. You have to be willing to look at yourself with an honest rawness that will either shape how you go forward or it will make you run from it. The key is to stick to it. Now, there are ways to do it so that you're not in a constant self-degradation phase. Um, and if you can't get through this, of course, enlist the help of a counselor or a mental health professional. The next pillar is the triad of health. That's the mind, body, and spirit. And they act as one. If your mind's off, your body and your spirit are off. If your body is off, your mind doesn't typically work with it. And your spirit, when you've lost faith or belief, makes it hard for you to kind of focus and go forward. That kind of has a lot to do with self awareness. And of course, through self awareness, you can recognize that your mind's off, your body is not in tune, and your spirit, you've lost either your, what's the word I'm looking for, your moral compass or your core values, probably a better way to put it. And then the next pillar is gratitude, where we talk about what we have now as opposed to what we want, what we're aspiring to. I think in order to reach next steps, you have to be able to appreciate what you already have. Even if it isn't perfect, it's what's yours. And I think we're rewarded for knowing what we have and taking a great deal of pride in that. The next step, the next pillar, if you will, is acceptance. Acceptance is a skill that you can build. Um, Acceptance is something that helps calm you. And what we're accepting is that the past is the past. And if it was good, you're probably not going to have that back. And if it was bad, it's not a definition of who you are now, especially if you're trying to advance yourself and move forward past dark time. Acceptance also allows us to live in the moment instead of being too much in the future or having our head wrapped around things that we are not geared up for or ready for. Um, so acceptance is a big part of being able to take a situation and rather than have an emotional reaction to it with temporary emotion for a long-term decision, acceptance allows us to deal with it for what it is. And then the last pillar is compassion. And it's not just compassion for others, although all these things will make you more compassionate towards others. You'll be able to show a love and a patience with other people if you can do that. But more importantly, it should allow you to show yourself some compassion, give yourself some patience, show yourself a little forgiveness. So, why should we be taking an approach that goes in all aspects of our life? Well, positivity is hard. Even for the best and most positive amongst us, you will endure things that change your life. Life challenges, daily quandaries, um, relationships with people, family, spouses, and even ourselves, attitudes from others, our own. It's not easy to stay with a positive attitude at all times. Some things are harder to deal with than others. And then there are ideas that we have to wrap our head around. Some good, some bad. Some we have to decide if they are good or bad. And then just how we feel on a day-to-day basis, physically, mentally, and spiritually. See, I've got a hot take. You ready? I don't think it's about just being positive. I think it's about being grateful and realistic because not every day is the greatest day to be alive. Every day is a day to be alive. In any given moment, we aren't necessarily self aware enough to understand that we are either fighting an uphill battle, um, doing damage to ourselves with what we say or do. Um, and as we go along, even in a positive life, if we ignore a part of who we are or we're not taking care of the things that we need to be taken care of, we can slip away from what matters. We can be affected by those around us. It's not as always. It's I hear often, cut out the garbage from your life, but it's not always as easy as cutting off your kids, your wife or husband, coworkers, people you have to work with. Um, you spend a little less time being able to decide, how do I get out of this and who do I leave behind? Now, eventually, if things are toxic enough and things like that, obviously we need to make some differences. It's hard to stay positive in the midst of health and our liveliness, which, if we're given bad news by a doctor, or we, run into something or we harm ourselves somehow, we can do damage. We can set ourselves backwards. We can have a negative impact. And then we also have to remember how much we build up and carry along with us that can weigh us down. That can be a real weight on being positive. So we have to be realistic towards all that stuff. Look, not everyone is cut out for the cutthroat behaviors of, I'll do it and damn the torpedoes and, you know, I don't care what other people think. It's all well and good to hear somebody say, you shouldn't care what other people think about you. You should care what you think about yourself. But that's not always as easy as just saying, I don't care what other people think about me. Life has its own trolls. Whether we like it or not, we can just be living our life. And here comes somebody that doesn't like us. Now, this is the part where I do say, if they don't like you, that's their problem, not yours. What we're trying to do with Positivity Conduit is learn to like ourselves so that we're less impacted by the thoughts and feelings of other people. In an effort to build a better life, we have to be able to look at ourselves with a realism that says, I'm not perfect. And if they're out there saying, damn the torpedoes, they're going to step on people. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'll get mine. Unless, of course, it comes with the lack of morality and ethical approaches. Nobody is perfect. I got news for you. We are human. And that's synonymous with faults and imperfections. Being positive is hard. Being constantly positive is actually a form of gaslighting, whether we're doing it to ourselves or to others. Think about this for a second. When you are in a bad space, when it's bad day, you lost something, you lost someone, you lost your job, whatever the case may be, and somebody comes and says, everything's going to be okay. It's not. I lost something that mattered to me. What they're doing in that instance is trying to tell you, I know you're hurt. I'm not really interested in hearing about it. So I'm just going to offer you this platitude that says everything's going to be fine. You're going to be okay. Life is great. Being positive is hard. And we've done that to others too. I know I have. I know I have. We're gaslighting others when we just give them a blanket statement like everything is going to be okay. But finding our gratitude, our healthy triad foundation, learning to accept life as it is and who we are for what it's been, life for what it's been, and realizing you can only use now to shape a future, and then finding ways to be compassionate in your life, especially to yourself, is a stronger way to deal with life's difficulties, but it's not easy. Being positive is hard. Look, the book I'm writing is a system, not just a self-help. It's got multiple approaches because what works for me doesn't guarantee results for you. I've written it so it's set up in a tab format, so it's easy to go back and forth to find things, to legitimately bounce from one section of your life to another, because you can't do it all at once. In fact, you could start working on your self-awareness and need to go into the triad of health, for instance, to research how to become more flexible, to eat better, and there are resources. so that at every point of your build, which if you're being a positive person and you're trying to build a positive life, you're constantly trying to build. Consistency is key. I think Wes says that in one of his recent episodes, that you have to be consistent. So in addition to this tab format that you can flip from a major pillar to minor discussions, there's also a positivity journaling system, which helps you shape your gratitudes, write down reflections of your day, get a feel for what you've been able to accept and understand, and maybe even a little love letter to yourself here and there. The book will have my personal discussions and perspectives and things that I've gone through, but it also will share a tutorial for learning to automate certain aspects of your life so you can focus on what's truly important to you, to what you're doing, maybe your purpose that you find through all this. And it's a living ebook, which will update and offer a community going forward after you hit certain strides. And there are people there to support you, and the book is constantly being updated. And I'll be taking feedback all the time. Being positive, it's hard. Taking the time to be realistic in how you approach it doesn't come from just healing one part or dealing with one instant urge. It requires a cycle of effort, consistency. I hope you'll check it out. You will be able to get the book through my links that you'll be able to find um, at positivity.com, positivityconduit.com. And yeah, so I hope that not only have I helped you kind of reframe some of these thoughts, but that I've helped little Wes Tankersley in his little time of need, which I'm truly grateful to Wes for this chance to talk about how I view success and the importance of a realistic approach to positivity and getting to share some of what I know and what I'm doing with his audience, which is you. He is a good friend. I'm grateful to sit here. I may give him a hard time, but I have deep respect for Wes and wish him the very best. And I hope you people will help him move along in his um, effort to become successful. Wes should be back next week, unless he got unless he got lost amongst the Jimmy Buffett songs and the crashing waves of Utah's finest salt beaches. I don't know where he is. But if you have any questions for me, I can be found at wolf@positivityconduit.com. And of course, you can leave comments for me or for Wes here on YouTube, and we can talk about that in the spaces below. So now I'm a little sad because I'm coming to the end of my episode. It's been fun. I'm just trying to hang on to the camera for a little longer. I've actually got about 10 minutes extra of my 15 minutes of fame. So, anyway, just kidding. Until next time, this is Wolf K for Wes Tankersley, challenging you to find a realistic positive pipeline and to go out and define the shape of your own success. Have a kick-ass day.